Now we turn to number 4 in our series on God's mission, my mission. This is sharing God's mission. And isn't that what we are really wanting to do as we think about it, even in this kind of rather cold and desolate place with a temperature at -9 centigrade, whatever that is in Fahrenheit. A place that really does need to have the good news of God's loving care and his salvation, his vindication before the onlooking universe. John Stott's comment here is important. We must be global Christians with a global vision because our God is a global God. We need to touch the world with our message, which is primarily a message of God. That's what the good news, the God spell, is all about. Our annunciation, just like those early apostles, of what God has done through Jesus, who is God. And I think as we look at some of those texts, how about Romans chapter 8, verses 33 and 34? It's God who sets us right, so who can condemn us? It's Christ Jesus who died, more importantly, who was raised from the dead, who stands at God's right hand presenting our case. Sometimes we say, well, the most important thing is the cross, and I can understand why people think that. But without the resurrection, then the cross, well, it goes nowhere. So as we read there in Romans 8, more importantly, Jesus Christ who was raised from the dead. That's the message, the fact that even though Jesus was killed, he came back to life. He was raised from the dead, and now is the one who can save us and raise us from the dead. There's the gospel, the Christian gospel in a nutshell, you might say. And as we look at this, I want to be very careful about what we say in terms of what Jesus is doing at the right hand of God. In Romans 8:34, we read that Jesus stands at God's right hand, presenting our case. Similarly, in Hebrews 7:25, Jesus pleads our case, but this is not to the Father, it's before the Father. Because Jesus says there in John 16:26 and 27, I'm not saying to you that I will plead with the Father on your behalf, for the Father himself loves you, because you love me and believe that I came from God. He says, I'm not saying to you that I will plead the Father. So let's not say that Jesus is pleading with the Father. No, he's pleading before the Father. Get the right image. God the Father on his throne, Jesus standing at his right hand side, pleading, in other words, showing our case, demonstrating what Jesus has done for us before the jury. And who is the jury? The whole of the onlooking universe. That's what we have to understand, and particularly the angels who know us so well, who might have some really strong and persistent questions about our fitness to be there in the kingdom. Jesus is not pleading with the Father. Jesus says that. So be very careful how we need to be careful how we present that we don't think that God is the one who's resistant and Jesus is the one who has to plead with the Father for us. The whole of the universe need to be convinced. The Father already knows. Jesus defends us and pleads our case before all those, quote, sons of God. Do you remember that phrase back there in Job? So that they can know that we are, quote, safe to save. By our words and our actions here, we demonstrate we are truly sharing God's mission, and we can be brought back into the friendship and fellowship of God's eternal family. That's what I'm looking forward to, being part of God's eternal family once more, being back home with the God who loves us and has done so much to win us back to love and to trust. May God bless you this week as you think about these really important things. Say things right, and may he bless you as you study.